Everybody's talking about Rush Limbaugh. There he goes again. Or as Ted Stevens would say, oh no, not again. Now, get a load of the irony in this first clip here. Clip number 11, guys, we're going to play first, about the brown shirts. Now, just pay attention to what he says about the Democrats and Nazis in the beginning, and then what he does at the end. Okay? Listen.
By the way, to illustrate what a bunch of radical, environmentalist, wacko, insaniacs the Nazis were, I just sent Coco two web links they're going to put on rushlimbaugh.com, or you'll be able to see it. It's too lengthy to read. But they were environmentalist wackos out the wazoo. Isn't it interesting, ladies and gentlemen? Isn't it fascinating? No one can have an honest disagreement with the statists. Nobody can have an honest disagreement with Barack Obama or Harry Reid or Nancy Pelosi. If you disagree, you're a Nazi, you're a racist, you're Hitler, or something similar. A day after the White House dismissed protesters at town hall events as people sent from opposition groups manufactured emotion, the administration's political wing began mobilizing millions of its own supporters. President Obama said in an email message sent out yesterday to more than 13 million supporters of his campaign group Organizing for America, we got to get out there. These canvases, town halls, and gatherings only make a difference if you turn up to knock on doors, share your views, and show your support. So here's what I need from you. Can you commit to join at least one event in your community this month? It's Obama that is astroturfing. It is Obama who is manufacturing right from the White House, sending out his brown shirts to head up opposition to genuine American citizens who want no part of what Barack Obama stands for and is trying to stuff down our throats. It would be one thing if this were just a leader of some website trying to, this is the President of the United States who is mobilizing against over half the people in his own country. I have never seen this in this country.
Pay attention, dumbass. All right, I'm going to get to that second. But first, did you catch the great irony there? He says, you know, if we disagree with Obama, they call us Nazis and Hitler. Really? Who calls you that? I haven't seen that at all, right? Now, one of the protesters at one of the town hall events was holding up an SS sign. Now, we didn't call them the SS. He did. We just showed the sign. In fact, we didn't even show it on this show. But, you know, nobody ever called Limbaugh a Nazi or Hitler. I don't see that. And then, but forget whether we did or we didn't, right? Although I know we didn't. He then at the end turns around and says, you see that? Obama's a brown shirt. He sends out his brown shirts, like the Nazis. I mean, it's a classic case of projection, but it's done within a span of 2 minutes. Like, he doesn't even recognize it. He's like, yeah, if we disagree with them, they call us Nazis. Frickin' Nazis. All right, now let's get to his point about the grassroots and AstroTurf. Can you believe Obama is organizing people to show up at town hall events? Aha! You see that? That's AstroTurf. I've never seen it before in America. Really? You've never seen either side organize to have people show up at town hall events? Man, you really don't know anything about politics, do you? All right, Rush, I got to explain it to you. Here's the critical difference. If the Republicans or the conservatives organize people to get them out to town hall events, would there be anything wrong with that? Of course not. That's called democracy. If the Democrats do it, fine, right? No, what is called AstroTurf is when companies or interested organizations manufacture protests as if it comes genuinely from the people. See, if those people showed up and they were like, God damn it, I don't want any health care reform. I love my high health care bills. Love them. I want them to be sky high. And I never want it to change. And you know what? If you exclude me for a pre-existing condition and someone in my family dies, that's awesome. Let's go out and protest. Okay? Then there's nothing wrong with that. There are a bunch of idiots, if you ask me. But hey, that's a free country. You're allowed to be, right? And I actually believe that a lot of the guys at these town hall events are, in fact, you know, of course, they're not necessarily actors or anything. They are citizens that have been, you know, tricked into thinking that they are doing things in their own advantage. The perfect example of that was the guy at the town hall event who said, I want you to get your government hands off my Medicare. When Medicare is entirely government run. He loves the government run program, but he's been brainwashed, so he's an idiot, and he thinks, well, the government better not touch Medicare. That's a great private insurance thing that works. I mean, that's so sad. But anyway, you can do all that. There's nothing wrong with that. But when the healthcare industry, who are the ones who are going to profit from this, say, hey, why don't we organize this thing? Why don't we bus them to different areas? Why don't we give them pamphlets telling them, hey, disrupt when the congressman is speaking, speak out of turn, yell, shout, etc. See, that's when it becomes AstroTurf. That's when it's not genuine. That's what we're talking about. But Obama can, and Bush did, and everybody did. Every politician in the world says to his supporters, yeah, get out and represent our side. That isn't a problem, you moron. God. All right. So, but now what's going to catch attention is, of course, him saying brown shirts. But in case he wasn't clear enough on the Nazi references. Oh, one more thing before I give you the next clip. He says, isn't it interesting that the Nazis were environmentalists? No, it's really not that interesting at all. It's like that old thing where people talk about, Hitler was a vegetarian. So does that mean we should hate all vegetarians, or that it's wrong to be a vegetarian? Hitler was an artist. Does that mean the artist killed Jews? What does it mean? They hate gypsies? Come on. I mean, you want to talk about faulty logic. It's pathetic. All right, now he's going to go after Nancy Pelosi and throw around more Nazi terminology here. Here we go.
Ms. Pelosi, you asked for this. Here you go. Adolf Hitler, like Barack Obama, also ruled by dictate. His cabinet only met once. One day. That was it. Hitler said he didn't need to meet with his cabinet. He represented the will of the people. He was called the Messiah. He said the people spoke through him. Do you know what the very first law that Hitler ordained was? The very first law was a law declaring how to cook lobsters.
Aha!
They were to be boiled. That was deemed to be the least painful.
And
the law was sent around to all the restaurants.
Wow.
Now, does this sound like something any conservative president has ever done, or does it sound like the things that liberals are doing all over this country? The two links to show you just how off-the-wall radical environmentalist the Nazis were are posted now at the top of rushlimbaugh.com. Okay, Ms. Pelosi, you say you see swastikas? Well, when it comes to it, you look much more like one than any of us ever will.
Aha! Lobsters, I say, lobsters. Have you ever seen a conservative president do that? No. Have you ever seen a Democratic president do that? I'm going to go with no. Who told who how to cook lobsters? When did that? Was that Bill Clinton? When did that happen? Was it Jimmy Carter tell you how to cook lobsters? What the hell was that about? Remember earlier in the beginning of the first clip where he said, they call us Nazis. And then he went on to call them Nazis. So how many times, JR? 2 times? 3 times? Didn't get up to 4, did it? But it was close. Nancy Pelosi, you look like a swastika. That's what you look like, Pelosi. And it just makes up stuff. They used to call Hitler the Messiah. Really? Well, 1, I don't even know if that's true. But 2, who calls Obama the Messiah? We don't. You do. So what are you putting it on us for? And, Hitler said that he represented the will of the people. That's why he never met with his cabinet. Obama meets not only with fellow Democrats, he meets with Republicans over and over again. He has them over to watch the Super Bowl, etc. When did Obama ever say, I represent the will of the people, I don't need to meet with anybody? Never. He just says it like as if it's true. And I'm sure that, I feel bad calling them idiot conservatives, but they are. They're sitting there and they're kind of eat it up. They're like, oh yeah, that's right. He mentioned Obama and Hitler in the same sentence, and the lobsters, and the will, and the Messiah. Yeah, they're both the Messiah. Yeah, they're just like one another. Is there any logical connection? Is there any truth to it? Does it make any sense? They're not paying attention anyway. You think they're gonna, you think there's a couple of Republicans out there listening to Rush Limbaugh going, wait a minute, that logic was a little faulty. That's not how they roll.